Okay, ready? Welcome to the Friday edition of Truth Be Told. I'm, of course, Captain Ron with Tony Sweet. Today's guest is Alan Stivelman, who's the director of Witness to Another World, which is an intimate documentary that intends to unveil the mystery of a spectacular close encounter case witnessed by a lonely gaucho down in Argentina. Please welcome to the show, Alan Stivelman. How you doing, Alan?
Hello, Captain Ron. How are you? Nice
Terrific.
to meet you.
Tony's here as well, and you're coming to us live from Spain right now, right?
Yes, I'm here in Spain, Seville, in the south of Spain.
Awesome. Well, first off, let me just say this: what a score it was for you to have Jacques Vallée in your film. I mean, he's a giant in this, and how interesting that the feature character of your story is Juan Perez, and Jacques had actually interviewed him 30 years ago, right?
Yes, that's right. That's correct.
How cool
And
is that,
yes,
Tony?
That is cool.
I was honored to have him on board.
Totally.
And I knew when I started this project that Jack met Juan in the early 80s, but the thing that I didn't know is that if he still will remember this case when I was writing a letter to him inviting to get part of this amazing movie.
Well, it was great to have him in the film, and I thought it was a great moment in the film when they reconnected. And what a cool thing that this case has been. People have been looking at this case for 40 years now.
Yes, and especially Juan, who was dealing with his loneliness and with his trauma for more than 4 decades. And I think that's the detail that Jack wanted to help Juan. That's the reason why he got into that plane and took more than 24 hours to get to Argentina.
Wow. So this happened when Juan was 12 years old. Juan Perez was 12 years old, and it so affected him that he ended up sort of taking refuge out in the countryside by himself, sort of, and it's just still haunting him 40 years later.
Exactly. And the goal of this movie, of this journey, was to try to get answers for Juan in order to relieve him from his pain, from his loneliness. That because for more than 40 years, Juan thought that he was the only one who had this kind of experience. Remember that Juan is a really simple man
Yeah.
living in the countryside. He doesn't use cell phone nor internet, nothing. So he was really lonely in this trip.
Isn't it interesting that, we all get caught up in this thing? We think of this as a U.S. phenomenon, and we think of this as happening in our modern world. Yet we forget this is a worldwide phenomenon, and even in the middle of Argentina, some gaucho can have an ET experience, and yet he has the exact same struggles that people here have, where he feels alone. Who do you talk to about this? People here don't know who to talk to about this.
Exactly. I think we are dealing with a universal idea or archetype that happens all over the world in different shapes, in different way of contact. And for example, in the movie, you see that I went to the jungle of Paraguay and I met the Guarani elders. The Guarani is one of the most important indigenous cultures from South America. And for them, talking about UFO or about extraterrestrials, it's pretty common. It's not something that it will be something spectacular. I was a little bit afraid because I didn't know how they will interpret my my concerns and my question, but for them it was something really natural.
I think that was the most interesting part of the film, how these indigenous folks felt it wasn't as big a deal to them. They accepted it. They're like, oh yeah, the other world people came. They were
Exactly.
very matter of fact about it. Nobody, when you talk to them, they weren't like, no, get out of here. They just accept it as part of the world.
Well, that's kind of like most any, Aboriginal or Native American or tribes in any part of the world that, for millennials. I mean, it's just kind of common for them
Yeah.
to see and be contacted. So
Exactly. For them, it's pretty natural, and us, as Western people, we try to put everything on different boxes and try to get answers. But for them, there is no supernatural world or natural world. It's only one, and it's all connected.
Right. That's the most interesting thing that they take it. They just accept it and they think that that's part of the one world that we exist in, which I think was really interesting. So, what made you specifically choose this case? There are so many more well known cases out there. I know you're from Argentina, so I get that. But what made you specifically drawn to Juan Perez to look at his case?
Well, I have to say that it was a chain of events, pretty much synchronicities, that lead me to this case. I was six years ago. I was writing a script about an abduction case from a couple, but this script was written doing automatic writing. I was practicing another kinds of technique in order to get new ideas. And while I was doing this, after 30 pages, I stopped and started to ask why I'm writing this stuff because I was not involved on any kind of supernatural books or ideas. I never read any book about UFO. And I'm not a fan of UFO movies, so I didn't understand why I was writing this. My mainly passion was archaeology, the search of lost civilization, what is below Earth, but not what is above the sky. And then I bought a book. It's called The Stranger. It was written by a psychologist and a psychiatrist, and one of the chapters is they talked about the Juan Spears case. And the short long story is that when I was presenting my previous movie, Humano, in the city of this author, I met him by a synchronicity because in the cinema was the author of this book, and I was having the book while I was chatting with the audience. And while we were eating a pizza, he started to explain to me one of the most significant cases for him. It's the case of Juan. And he showed to me a footage of Juan when he was 18 years old. He was speaking to an audience and trying to explain what he saw when he was 12 years old. And when he started, he immediately after he broke down, he stopped there and said something like, I don't want to continue because you won't believe me. And the audience were all UFO fans, so it was the perfect audience for him. But for him, it was really difficult to explain, and I felt that when I saw that footage, I felt that I have to meet this person. I don't know why, but I needed to go after him because it was the first time that I was seeing something that was real for me, because I was seeing a truly person trying to explain a trauma or what he saw when he was 12 and he was not able, and I wanted to meet him. And 4 months after, I went to the countryside and I had a wonderful experience meeting with him, and it was like the first step to start reading plenty of books about UFO, and it took me 4 years of research in order to be able to make this project happen.
Wow, I love how many You know, I'm a big synchronicity person, Tony.
right.
How great that he had that many synchronicities happen that led him to this. And you had never been a fan or anything of this subject matter, and then after meeting Juan, you dove in and spent 4 years researching it. What do you conclude after all your studies of looking at UFO cases for 4 years?
Wow, that's a big question.
Huge question.
Yeah, uh, the only thing that I know for sure is there is something out there that it's linked to our consciousness. I don't know why, but after spending many and many hours of research, meeting people that witnessed supernatural things, I'm more willing to take the ideas of Jacques Vallée or Carl Jung that they speaks about the relationship between the UFO phenomenon and the uh, collective unconscious, and but I'm not able to go further. Also, in the movie, we are not we didn't take like a side if we are speaking about extraterrestrials or we are speaking about another dimension. But one thing, one of the things that happened during the film is that when I went to Paraguay to the jungle to meet these elders, for them it's the UFO phenomenon. It's from another dimension that is next to our dimension, and these things are the similar to the ideas of Jacques Vallée. It was something that it got me really surprised to hear from them that they were speaking to me the same ideas that Jacques Vallée has. And I also asked the same question to Jacques Vallée after many decades of researching what is his conclusion, and he doesn't have a conclusion. Also, he made a joke last week when he said that he's the only UFO researcher that doesn't know what is the UFO
That's
phenomenon or
right.
who they are.
That's right. I
That's
love that.
funny.
I love that because he's really looking at this at a scientific way. Like he's really trying to get to the bottom of it. As you know, he's obviously coming from that angle, and I think it's great. Now, if you spend so much time with Juan personally, it's one thing to see one of these guys on film, or even read their story or their account. When you're with him personally, I mean, you get the opportunity to decide how you feel about his experience and how it affected him. Do you feel that it was a genuine thing and it really, obviously it changed his life? Did you feel that sincerity with him in person?
Yes, of course. And if not, I wasn't going to make a movie. If I I was not able to feel that sincerity, that honesty, and that innocence that he has. And I also spent 3 weeks with him shooting this movie, but I also spent plenty of days before started to make this project during a period of 4 years. So it was a big relation that we had, and we got very very close each other. He's now a friend of mine. I consider as a friend, and also his family too. And thanks to make a pretty good follow up during this year, I got the confidence from his family. And I remember one of the meetings that I had with his mother. He also confessed to me that he and that she also had an experience
Mm.
when she was a teenager.
Wow.
And I think that was the main fuel for me to go and try to get answers to what's going on with this family and also with this phenomenon.
That's
Because one of the
huge.
biggest
Yeah.
yeah, because one of the biggest questions that I had was if there is a connection between the lineage of these contactees and the UFO phenomenon.
I'm sure
Because
you
it's a
saw that in all the books you looked at
Right.
because it's very
Yeah.
common in many of the studies that it does go through families over and over and over.
It's almost like a genetic thing.
Yeah.
Because we've heard that many times. It's like, well, my mother, my grandmother, yeah.
Right. It's in that family.
exactly.
So that's an interesting aspect of this case because the way it happened, it's hard to tell if it was just like one of these one-off, because there are these one-off, the Travis Walton cases, the one-offs. It's interesting now to hear that his mother had an experience. Well, now that changes everything about his, because it does seem like he sort of stumbled upon this. He was walking his burro or whatever, and he saw the lights, and he went over to it. Now maybe they were coming specifically to see him. That's interesting. It makes it even
Exactly.
more compelling of a case, I think.
Yes, and for me it was something quite spectacular because it was a secret for her. And she confessed to me when I was 28, I think, or 29. And Juan didn't know that. And I couldn't tell to Juan. And after we finished the movie, when her mother saw the movie, she was able to speak to Juan about the phenomenon and started to share all her experiences with him. It was, in one hand, the movie was a healing process for Juan and for all of us, but also when the movie finished, a whole healing process started to happen with his family. Because remember, Juan received only mockery from them because everyone started to say that he was mad, he was a lunatic, he was invented all these stories. And, and after that, after the movie was done, Juan started to receive the opposite of it because his sisters or his mother, also his father, saw the movie and understood Juan. And then they said to him, like, so sorry, brother, so sorry, and now I understand you. Now I understand why you ran away and separate from us, etc. So it was a really and truly healing process for all of them.
That's terrific. It's a shame it took 40 years for them to get it, but
Right.
that's nice story that happened. I'd like you to have gotten that on film or having her tell him. Boy, that's a story right there. You got a follow up built right into this, man.
Yeah,
You could
yeah,
do mom's story.
and also the last time that I spoke to him 2 months ago, he was also receiving some visits in his house. But now he's not the only witness. His mother also saw it. His sister. So the phenomenon is still coming to him.
Interesting. That could turn into a big case then if this keeps going on like that. I think it's interesting too that in this they talk about him being contacted through his dreams and how those people, the Argentinian people, felt like what do they call it? Karai? Karai, yeah.
Kare is the shaman.
Right. And the Karai say that that's how they contact us in our dreams. That
Exactly, because for them, for the Guarani people, the world of dreams are way much important than our reality or when we are awake. So for them, the way of connecting to the spiritual realms or to spiritual entities is thanks to the way of dreaming or the process of dreaming. And what happened to Juan was quite impressive because after this contact, this experience that he had when he was 12, he started to have premonition dreams, precognitive dreams, and that's the gift of the Guarani people. So in a way, he got triggered with the Guarani clairvoyance gift,
right.
thanks to the contact that he had.
Heard
So
that many
it's
times.
That's exactly right. Tony's bringing that a good point that's something we hear again, and we've heard that in your film that several of these people feel that they got the gift of clairvoyance after a
It's kind
visitation.
of like it's weird that like a near-death experience and a lot of times UFO contactees become clairvoyant
exactly.
or yeah.
Again, his story out in the middle of nowhere of Argentina, it reflects exactly, Whitley Strieber or these other people
Right.
that are
Yes.
these mainstream people that we don't know about. That adds more credibility to this phenomenon that this is happening to everybody, and they have the same exact experiences. Even Juan wondered if it was even real. He went through the same struggles that all these other people. That's one of the other compelling parts of the film I felt was that Juan struggled with the same thing. Did this really happen? If it did, what was it? Was it alien? Was it spirit? Even at 12 he didn't know, and then as he thought about it for years, he struggled with the unknown. Did this really happen, and what happened?
Yes, and also when he was 12, if you see the original reports, you will notice that Juan never used the word UFO or ship because Juan thought that what he was seeing was a tractor and the beings were farm workers. He never thought that he was seeing aliens or a UFO ship. So that's a good point to mention because it talks about the innocence of this young boy.
Absolutely, and also how we all see this through our own lens, as in communion when Whitley talks about, thousands of years ago they said that fairies came for the trees, and then later, now we call it aliens from the skies. It's through our lens. He didn't think it was a spaceship; he thought it was a tractor, because through his lens,
Exactly.
that's what comes in with lights across the valley. That's
That's
fascinating.
what exactly. Then and that's the reason why he was not afraid to go forward and cross this thick fog and had this experience because one of the things that I wanted to know is where is the trauma because the whole experience was not traumatic and they didn't harm him. Nothing bad happened during the experience.
That's a very
So
good point. It was a very friendly encounter.
exactly, very friendly, nothing bad, and the traumatic aspect was in his dreams because for him it was a curse rather than a gift because he started to have dreams about death, about accident that he was not able to stop from happening.
Hmm.
It's interesting how Tony and I have talked to some people like Ray Hernandez and others lately who have done very recent studies, and they've shown how many people that have an abduction experience initially have fear, but then as years go on, 80 some percent of them, Tony, say that they would do it again or they like it,
Right.
like it's not a negative experience in their life.
Yeah, they're finding more abductees or people that contact actually are a positive experience.
They're right. They say contactees, not
Yeah,
abductees,
yeah,
because
contact,
we're
yeah.
friends now. It's interesting that once again, Juan, this person, mirrors the same thing that these other folks are saying, which is that initially it was a little bit scary and traumatic, but not in a bad way. And certainly as it went on, it's a friendly experience. There's nothing really negative. He had no negative aspect of this other than the torment, like from people in his world. There
Exactly.
was no
That's
torments from aliens.
the terrible part was the contact with the human beings rather than
Exactly. Isn't
this
that
entity.
terrible but
Yes.
true? I like that you were going after this and you want to find out, like all of us, what this is. Like it's an inquisitive quest for yourself. And I felt that watching that you were seeking the answers and you want to know what this is. After looking at all this, what do you think about this? You touch on like the multiverse in physics and the holographic universe, that the real is really the invisible. How do you think this ties in, like with the simulated universe theory? How what's your take on all of this? There's a small
Well,
question for you.
not
That's a yes or no
yeah.
answer.
I have to I have to say that I'm more mm, I think that we are dealing with a multiverse idea that this phenomenon in a way is connected with our mind, with our consciousness. And I have to say that 2 weeks ago I met a Kabbalist. You know, the Kabbalah is the Jewish knowledge, the esoteric knowledge. And while I was chatting with him, he started to speak about ancient manuscripts that speaks about the extraterrestrials idea, that our universe it's not the only one. We have multiple universe, and the simple answer for the UFO idea was that they are um, they are humans, but after life, and that was one of the ideas that I had while I was doing this movie because one of the questions that I had was if there is a connection between the UFO phenomenon and the afterlife. And in a way, I have an answer of that because while Juan was having a regression, because in the movie you saw that there was a small scene that we did a regression for Juan, and at the end of that regression, Juan had a vision or something like that from these entities. These entities helped Juan to have a vision because Juan was asking to them the question that was, why to me? Why is this happening to me? And Juan had an answer of that, and that answer, I don't want to say it because it will be a spoiler, but that answer is straight related to the idea of the afterlife.
Hmm.
And it's also related with the idea of the lineage,
Yeah.
because he had the answer that what is happening with him, the others that came before him, they also had it. So it's
Well,
something that comes from
yeah.
one generation to another one.
Did when he got that answer, and I don't want to spoil anything, but did it relieve a lot of what he went through and a lot of the questions he had? Was it enough to just go that I needed that
Yes,
pretty much?
yes, it was. I remember it's not in the movie, but when Juan woke up with that regression, his face was completely different.
Hmm.
He was trying to put, I think he was like trying to connect the dots, because what he saw was very strange.
Hmm.
He's and I remember that was happening. We look, I look into Dr. Berlanda's eyes, and he was saying like, what's going on here?" Because it was a lost memory that was not part of the original reports, nor when Juan was speaking to us about what happened to him. And for me, that experience, that what Juan saw, it was a relief for me itself, because for 3 years, I don't know why, but I was quite struggling with the idea of the death and what's uh, beyond life. If there is something or there is nothing. And also, when I started to make this project, I linked that idea to the UFO phenomenon. If
It
there
is
is a
interesting.
connection.
Yeah, we have heard that peppered in this world, of people saying that the spirit world and this world kind of overlap a little bit. You do hear that, which is an interesting thing. Also, I find it interesting that the multiverse, we hear that right in the mainstream top physics
Right.
guys today, and it's written on these texts that you were mentioning from thousands of years ago, which hundreds of years ago seemed crazy, and now today with our latest thinking in physics, that's what we think mathematically oftentimes, that there is multiverses, and that's what they were writing about thousands of years ago. Isn't
Mm-hmm.
that compelling?
Exactly. And today we are not able to demonstrate this idea in science, but ancient knowledge speaks about this idea for many, many thousands of years. So I think it's a matter of time in order to reveal this or to prove this knowledge. That's why in this movie, we didn't fail in order to try to prove the existence of the UFOs. We only focused on the human aspect of this phenomenon.
Absolutely.
That's why we choose this, because there is some proofs in the case of Juan. For example, Juan received a mark on his right arm, but that's it's not enough. His horse, for example, died 24 hours later. There is a mark on the ground when the UFO landed, but those proofs are not enough to, to try to demonstrate that we are dealing with a real phenomenon.
Agreed.
So that's why we choose the human aspect, and the only evidence of of this of this phenomenon or this idea is that Juan got traumatized for 4 decades, and
Hmm.
that's true because his tears are
Yeah.
really are real.
That's the takeaway from this film, is that long-term effects of these encounters on people's lives and those around them. And it's also interesting how, like you pointed out, that it's really the other human interactions that are more of the traumatic part than anything else. Also, getting his star name seemed to be a compelling thing for him. Right? Remember when he gets his own star name and he feels like that's another breakthrough.
Exactly. At the end of the movie, he received his star name, his spiritual name, because everyone, according to the Guarani tradition, we all have two names, one exterior name like Alan, Ron, and there is also an inner name that is linked to our purpose on this earth. What's our mission? And we did this ritual that is pretty secret, but we were able to shoot it and to be and participate on that ritual also. And Juan, for the first time, he received his name. And well, I don't want to spoil it because it's the end of the movie,
Right.
but it was quite special to him to get in touch with his community, with his roots, and it was all about trying to get uh, like a relief for him from his pain, from the weight that he was having on his back for plenty of years.
You also touch on in the film how you feel that this new paradigm doesn't fit with the current worldview for most people, and that's one of the struggles that contactees have, as well as the rest of us.
Well, I have to mention, for example, the participation of Dr. Nestor Berlanda, who is a psychiatrist, but he also a researcher of UFOs and the abduction phenomenon. But if, for example, Juan was going to a regular or orthodox psychiatrist, he was going probably to a hospital for lunatics. So it's really hard to deal with these things for those who had these experiences.
It's hard to get your head around that. Even for us who are immersed in it, it's hard to get our head over it, let alone. It's crazy. Do you have something else?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted, and you talked a little bit about the 4D world versus the 5D world as well, which kind of laps right into there. People have a hard time grasping this stuff. If it doesn't happen to you, and that's what when we have first-hand encounters with people, it's like they have that too. They would have never accepted it, and then it happens to them, and then all of a sudden it's like they're on the other side trying to communicate to the rest of us, look, at this is real. It's hard. It's really hard for these people. I genuinely feel for them. Well, why don't you tell us where folks can see the film, Alan?
Well, the film is live everywhere on iTunes, Google, Amazon, Vimeo on Demand, and you can have more information if you want by going to our website. It's witnessofanotherworld.com.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, folks. Check out the film, Witness to Another World. And Tony, didn't we have something else? You had an announcement or something?
Well, just because, people love our channel and they love our guest. The people in the chat room are saying they love you. But if you want to share this show so people can hear more about this episode, we would love to have everybody in the chat room share this. And please subscribe to our channel and make sure you support Alan and his project. I think it's a great project that he's put together, and we hope you enjoy it. Please let him know. Let him know that you guys watched it and enjoyed it. So, but subscribe to our iHeartRadio, our podcast on Apple, and again on YouTube. Subscribe and leave a review. We'd love to hear from you guys. But Alan, thank you so much. It was great to hear your story, and Juan.
Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Ron. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, brother.
All right, until next time, I'm Tony Sweet with Captain Ron. This is Truth Be Told.